it is very important to understand that Hasidus talks very much about the fact that although we talked about Emunah, how important this is the Yesod, the first Yesod of Yesod HaYesodis, but Hasidus very much emphasizes that Emunah alone is not going to make it. Emunah is something that is makif. You could believe and b'shas ma'aseh do the opposite of what you believe. The famous Gemara that Hasidus brings, Ganve apum machtarta rachmana karya, that it's possible that a ganef is about to make a holdup, and he could ask. He could daven to the Eibishter that it should be a hatzlacha dike genev. How could he ask Hashem, give me hatzlacha in going against your will? He's praying to Hashem. And the Torah says, yes, it's possible. So what's going on? Because the nature of Emunah alone is not enough. You could believe and you don't realize what you're believing. You have to internalize it. So without going into all the miles, tremendous miles of Hasidus, Pashit to be a Yid, to be able to be Mekayim Torah mitzvahs all the time. You cannot rely on Emunah. It has to be internalized by thinking, and what does that mean? And bring it down in Havana Vasaga that you are intellectually convinced as is takazoi. When you think about this, and you not just think about it, it registers in your mind, yes, this is Hashem is here and Hashem is Einay Muvadoi. This is Poshet Nigayah to be a Yid. It's very interesting, I'm sure everybody knows, that the whole Tanya is based on a pasuk that the Torah says, Ki koroi velecha hadava miyoid, that Torah mitzvahs is very possible. Some people translate that the word korov means easy. Chas v'sholem, everybody knows it's not easy. So to korov does not mean easy, but it means it's possible. It's not impossible. It's not, look what the Torah says, it's not me'ever layam, it's not pashamayim. But to keep Torah mitzvahs 24/7 is a big avodah. And without learning Hasidus and working on Hasidus and working on ourselves, Pashut, it's Nigayah for Torah mitzvahs. With Emunah alone, we cannot survive. So I wanted to just go over this again, that Emunah alone is taka the Yesod. But this Yesod, in order to be felt and realized, it takes a lot of learning, and not learning, but thinking and thinking about it. And it's interesting to note, I think I mentioned it last week, anybody who goes through the Tanya, even makiftik, will find that every second perek the Alter Rebbe keeps on saying kishi is boinen, kishi is boinen. The word kishi is boinen is like a must. If you're not, you could learn Hasidus from today till tomorrow. if you don't later think about it and implement it, take it serious, nothing's going to happen. You low Hasidus, what is that? So what? You have to bring it down to yourself, think about it. Every day we change. What I understood yesterday, what I was convinced yesterday, what I felt yesterday has no bearing on today. So it's a process. A Chassid has to constantly learn Chassidus and to think about it, and think about it. Think about it before davening, think about it. The Rebbe really said this is really before Mincha, before Ma'ariv. It's a constant work. So to be Hasidim, I'm not verbringing here, and I hope no one is, Michai should be here that I'm giving you over the head or something, but we are not Hasidim without Hasidus. And we're not, even with Hasidus, we have to think about it and apply it to ourselves. Or else is the kasha aggressor kasha. You know about this, so where are you? What are you doing about it? So we are the Rebbe is gonna learn from us, and the Alter Rebbe and all the Rabbeim much more, because you taka learned and you know. And what did you do about it? What you know what the answer is? We never really took this to heart. We never took these words and thought about this adaita de nafshe, that it's negaya pekuach nefesh for me. Anyways, at kan is the few words as a rabbi before he made a drasha. He said, before I begin to talk, I would like to say a few words. So I'm saying the few words before we continue. So we are up to l'chiyore, the second Yesod, in the way how the Rambam writes the Yud Gimel Ikrim, and that is the mitzvah of Achdus Hashem. It's very important to know that it's a davar pashut that you can't have Yichud Hashem if you don't first have Emunas Hashem. So the Rambam made this with a tremendous seder, that first comes Emunah, and then there comes the Indian of Emunah in Achdus Hashem. It's not only the Emunah in Achdus Hashem, it's also the Yediyah of Achdus Hashem. Like the Rambam begins his whole sefer, Leida Olaham. Mitzvah Hashem, later on, I hope to remember to talk about this, but the Alter Rebbe in Tanya says a very big chiddush, that although the Rambam officially is calling mitzvahs Achdus Hashem a separate mitzvah, we learn it out from a different pasuk, and it's another mitzvah in the minyan ha-mitzvahs. But the Alter Rebbe says, and it's based on a Zohar, that Achdus Hashem is a parat in Emunas Hashem. That if you really if you believe, including in the belief, to believe in Hashem, what means believing in Hashem? Also Achdus Hashem. What my nafkimine? My nafkimine, if it's a parat in Emunas Hashem, the chilik is moiradik, because the Alter Rebbe says, you ready for this? I don't know, I used to see a whole pictures of a lot of people listening. There's only 3 people on this program now, today?
14, Rabbi. Everyone else is waiting outside.
How come I don't see on the screen? Toises bleibt stehen, huh?
It's the different view you've got set on your screen. Don't worry, Rabbi. We're listening. We want another difference. We want the chiddush.
Okay. L'may nafkemine, if it's a parat in Emunas Hashem, or it's a separate mitzvah. So we have to go learn Tanya. We have to learn Perek Yud Ches, Yud Tes, Chaf, Chaf Aleph, Chaf Beis, Chaf Gimel, Til, Chaf Hey, Va'ad Bechlal. The Alter Rebbe says it's so negaya in for every younger man, for every chassid, that the Alter Rebbe claims that if you don't really believe in Achdus Hashem the way he talks, you're basically Ovid Avodah Zarah. You ready for this? You're playing with the whole situation. There are two mitzvahs that the Alter Rebbe said the whole Torah mitzvahs is nichlal in the first two dibros. As the Alter Rebbe says clear. Anoichi is kailal mitzvahs asay, la'yilach is kailal all the loises. If you learn the Be'iyun, this whole Masechta that starts from Yud Ches and ends in Chaf Hei, the Alter Rebbe wants to bring out that if a person, if a Yid, believes or thinks that there's a davar, that there's something else besides the Eibishter, it's called Avodah Zarah. And if Avodah Zarah, no Yid would give up his life. I mean, there's so much to talk about, but I just want to bring out that Achdus Hashem is not just another Sheina Inyan in the Chassidus. The Alter Rebbe learns that we're talking about the whole essence of Yiddishkeit is in these two mitzvahs. And if a person holds himself as a Metzias or thinks anything is a Metzias, he thinks Chas v'Sholom that there's a davar nifred. It's avodah zarah, bedakis. This is a chamoyedike thing. So there's so much to talk about the nechitzas of learning Chassidus. The way the Alter Rebbe explains Achdus Hashem, this is Ikrim shebeikrim. Everybody knows that this is it. And the way the Alter Rebbe explains this, he explains that you're talking about basically, do you believe in the Eibishter? If you believe in the Eibishter, believing in the Eibishter means Hu levadoi hu v'yein zulasai. That's the translation. If you're missing that, then you don't know what means Eibishter. And you could chas v'sholem be in Deis. In Deis, you're a koifer. You're Ovid Avodah Zarah. So we'll talk about this hopefully b'meshach of this shir that we're talking about Achdus Hashem. It might take more than one shir. But I want to just explain that we have to know every chassid and every yid who's listening, I don't know who's listening, we have to understand that the Alter Rebbe brings out Yisoidei Hayadus. Pashut Yisoidei Hayadus, what does a yid believe and what is a yid? And Achdus Hashem is mamish nigeya in Amunus Hashem. Okay, so now let's go from step to step. The whole world, we all know, we all say twice a day, 3 times a day, maybe 4 times a day, we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Kaidim Kol, again, a Hakdama. If you look in the Gemara, if you look in Shulchan Aruch, you find that the Shema Yisrael is called Kabbalas Malchus Shemayim. There is no mention, l'chiyore, no mention that Shema Yisrael is to accept Achdus Hashem. Gemara says, Lama kadma shmal v'hayim shemaya kedei she'yikabel alo malchus shemayim tchila. Where does Malchus Shemayim say in Shema Yisrael? Because you say Hashem Elikeinu. A Yid, when he says Hashem Elikeinu, he's supposed to think the Eibishter is my Melech. He's Mekabel Malchus. You're mechuyev Pashit to think not just Hashem Echad. You wait a minute. The Ikad Dagush, according to the Shulchan Aruch, is Malchus Shemayim. It so happens that the Rambam learns that from this pasuk we learn out also Achdus Hashem, which is a mitzvah min haTorah. It's a separate mitzvah, but it doesn't say clear, unless somebody knows differently. It doesn't say clearly that it's the time to believe in Achdus Hashem. It's called Malchus Shemayim. It's packaged Malchus Shemayim. Afal Pikein, in Chassidus, it's all over that Hashem Echad is Achdus Havaya, and that's the Hisboinenis, and that's what brings V'ahafta. But it's very interesting that Al Pi Nigla, you don't see that as that's the main focus, is Hisboinenis in Achdus Havaya. It's called Malchus Shemayim. And with Sarachiyun on this, and everybody could do their own research, it's very kedai to figure out how come in Shulchan Aruch, and even the Rambam, when he talks about it, it's called Malchus Shemayim. Okay, now we'll go a little further. What is it plain pshat from Shema Yisrael? So there's a lot to talk, but it's interesting that Rashi and Chumash, and we all know that Api Pashtus, this whole pasuk, is something that Yaakov wanted to know before he was nostalgic, if his children are still living in the same hashkafas as he, and he was concerned. So the Bnei Yaakov said to Yaakov, they called him Yisrael, which is another interesting thing, how they called him by his first name. That's another tzarachi and gadol. But as I state, Shema Yisrael means, listen, Tati, your name Yisrael. Don't worry, Hashem Elikeinu, we all believe in the same thing as you. Interesting that it says in Medrash that when Yaakov heard that, he said, gelobt der Eibishter that my children are on the same wavelength. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Yisrael. So it's just interesting that the same words could mean completely, now you talk about a mitzvah, it's a story, and everything, the same words. That's in Chumash, and that's in Medrash. But Lemaise, it's a mitzvah. And the Shema Yisrael is a mitzvah min haTorah. In mitzvah sichas kavanah, you have to have kavanah to be yaitz the mitzvah. And you got to know what is this mitzvah. But I just want to say that we should remember that it's very interesting. The same wording could have a whole different shot. Now let's go back to Pashit. What does it mean, Hashem Echad, in Halacha? This is for sure. I think I mentioned it the first time we studied together. That's for sure that it does not mean Hashem is the only Eibishter. That is so nonsense to think that that's the pshat, because Lahavdil elef alofim, a goy, that's one of his Sheva mitzvahs too. A goy is supposed to believe that the Eibishter is the supreme being. So to say that Hashem Echad is only one God, that's what we're saying. It says Shema Yisrael. This is only for Yidden. So it cannot even mean that the Eibishter is the only Eibishter. And Afal Pikain, I have to say, I'm sure you know this on your own, that is plenty Yidden with beards and payas and the whole 9 yards. And when I asked them, what did you think when you said Hashem Echad? They answer me this ridiculous answer, Hashem Echad, there's only one God. Besides the point that I asked them, so why did you have to shout like that? Like, are you running for God? Like you're in competition, or you're convincing yourself that no, He's the only God? What is this? What's the connection with schreing and making noises over the whole shul? Like what is going on? They don't have what to answer because I don't even know what they're thinking. But I do ask many times. When I was in Buffalo and I lived, it wasn't exactly a Hasidish town, and there was, I don't know how many even Shomer Shabbos there was there in the town, but for some reason they were always coming with shulachim. They must have think that they're going to make money over here, and they came with shulachim. All kinds of shulachim used to come into the shul, and they were dressed, with all these uniforms with the Bieber hats and the long payas and everything beautiful. But when they were davening Ma'ariv, there was something to hear. That when you heard such a commotion, what place was going, the guy was shouting a chod, but like you could think that there's a thunder. So I know who they are. So later on, I would say, could you please tell me? I don't want to, I just want to, what did you think when you said this? Like you were making so much noises, you were trying to convince yourself. What were you thinking? What were you making those noises? This was haste. There's only one God. Really? And for that, you had to make so much noise? And then I asked him, a guy also has to believe there's only one God. So what's the specialty about Shema Yisrael? They didn't have what to answer. It's very sad. It's sad because you're not mekayim the mitzvah of mitzvahs yichud achdos Hashem. That's not what it means. Poshit it's amaratzis. So what does it mean Hashem Echad? According to Gemara, Rashi, Tosfos, Poskim, Halacha, what does it mean Hashem Echad? So there are a few different approaches. All of them are true, of course, but it's still not what we're going to get to. So let me go from step to step. The first shitta, many Rishonim say that the mitzvah of Achdos Hashem is to exclude that the Eibishter does not have any partnership. Everything that is done, if it's the sun, if it's the moon, if it's the earth, there is no koyach that the sun has, or the moon has, or the earth has. It's one Hashem that gives the koyach for the earth to give out fruit, trees, vegetables, etc. The sun doesn't have its own heat, its own light. It's the Eibishter. There's no shutvim. There's no other koyach existing, only Hashem's koyach. This is a mitzvah that is miyuched only for Yidden. Lahavdol elef alofim, a goy is not mechuyev to believe that. If he thinks that there is chas v'shalom shutvim, he is not over on any of the sign mitzvahs. But for a Yid is mechuyev. This is the Taich Hashem Echad, that he believes that the only koyach that there is anywhere is only Hashem. And really, bidakis, if we want to really go into, take this on a much more refined level, it also has to do with business and a lot of things in life. You know, we are accustomed to hear, it's business, it's the Ikrim, the Eibishter's bracha, bechas Hashem, hitiyasha, it's all Hashem's brachas. So what does a person could chas v'shalom think without understanding what this means, shlilas hashituf? You could think like this. Business is, if you have a good job and you have a good seichel and you have this, you have that, of course we need Hashem to also give a little blessing. Yeah, I'm sure it enhances, but basically it's the job. That means shituf. That means that it's the business that gives you, it's the job you have, the business, what you're doing is what makes you money. Of course, Hashem helps along too. This is Pashat Avodah Zarah for a year. This is called a part of Avodah Zarah, shituf. There's no such a thing as the job gives you parnasa. Who's creating the job? Who's creating? There's not one aspect in what you are doing that is yours. There's a beautiful taich from the Baal Shem Tov on the words Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed. We say this every day in Shmoneh Esrei. Says the Baal Shem Tov, Mechalkel comes from the word keli. The Eibishter makes the keli too. What means you make the keli and Hashem is going to drop a bracha. You're out to lunch. Who is creating the keli every second? There's a keli. Nothing exists on its own. Your seichel, who's giving you the seichel that second? Anything that you put into business is not yours. There's nothing in the business that is yours. But Eibishter wanted that's the way he wants us to conduct ourselves, that we meferish have to work and we have to make a keli. But our Yid is mechuyev to believe, shlilas hashituf. There's no one assisting Hashem in your in panasa. It's all Hashem. This is so negeya in daily life, because, you talk abstract, there's no other koyach, you don't take it really to heart, that it's really negeya in a refuah too. If chas v'sholom a person is not well, and the Torah says you have to go mitzvah l'roife l'rapos. It's the Torah wants you to go to a roife, and the roife gives you a medicine, and the Torah says you must take that medicine. The Eibishter can give the chayitza without your medicine. That's the Eibishter's derech. He's going to give you whatever but you have to do what the Eibishter wants you to do. But after everything is said and done, what's the type of medicine? It's a good medicine. What's the type of good medicine? Who is creating that medicine every second? And who is making that medicine should work? Is there one aspect that it's happening by itself? It's existing by itself. So this inyan of shlilas hashitov is very, very negeya in our whole life. So when we say Shema Yisrael, even on this level, on the most nigle, dicke level, Shlilas HaShituf, many times a day we might be slipping on this. We might be in our mind, we have a little bit of a Shituf. It's very interesting that you find in Hasidus, the Gabe, a person, let's say, who sometimes could miss a Mincha Ma'ariv in a shul or whatever, or not go to a shir because he's a bit busy with his business. So what's the pshat? What does the person think? If he's going to leave this now, he could lose business. He could lose money. But what is a yid supposed to believe? Who's running this business? It's all the Eibishter. Is it possible that by not listening to the Eibishter, you're going to come out more successful? It doesn't work that way. It's not possible. So b'meila, if you really, really believe in Shlilas HaShituf, you will not compromise on certain inyanim because I have a business deal. I mean, we could give many, many, many mishalim, but it's very, very practical to always remember everything is from Hashem. It's not the business. What do we say to a yid? Pashut, practically speaking, there are plenty of yidden who never feel that they have to work on Shabbos. Either that's the best day of business, or bechlal, they can't. So what is the argument? Especially people, let's say, who work in companies or stores, that the best day of business is Shabbos. That's where most people go. Shabbos is when they go into the stores to buy, let's say. So what is a yid supposed to say? It may be the best day of business, but if the Eibishter doesn't want me to work, I will not see from this money that I make on this business, I'm not going to come out on the winning side. It's not possible. It's the Eibishter who's doing this. So if the Eibishter wants me to keep Shabbos, is it possible that I'm going to lose by keeping Shabbos? In the end result, it's all the Eibishter again. I'm just giving a lot of dugmos that Shlilas HaShituf is not abstract, that is somewhere in the Kachavim or Mazolai. Sometimes they don't have a koyach. So, no koyach here. You're not too busy with the Kachavim Mazolais. But it's very personal. Shlilas HaShituf is a mamish 24/7. Okay. So that is one of the mahalchim of Achdus Hashem, that the Eibishter is the only koyach that there is. Nothing is, there's no other koyach. Interesting, just derech agav, just to bring it out, that Hasidus uses this whole thing with shituf about kibbud of aim. That l'chayre, why are we mechuyev to give kibbud of aim? It's like l'chayre, how are they even a shutr? It's all the Eibishter. So there's a very interesting. So what does Hasidus answer? That the children also comes. It's everything the Eibishter. But being that the parents could have abstained from having children, and they didn't, of them there is kibbud of aim. But not the kibbud of aim is there, the sibir for you to be born. It's all the Eibishter again. It's the Eibishter's koyach and the father and the mother. Everything's right to the Eibishter. So that is the little darkesticker. What's the kibbud of aim? They could have stopped it. Have bchira. Okay, that's a maimah muzkum. Then there is another Mahalach, and that's the Rambam himself. If you look into Hilchos Yesod HaTorah, how the Rambam explains the mitzvah of Achdus, a whole different part. That the Eibishter is not made up of many koiches, many qualifications, but it's a one Eibishter that can do all this. It's a whole different type. And the Rambam in Halacha, that's how he translates Echad. He's a one and only, he's Yochid, and everything that he has is a part of him. He's not made up of many different koiches. Then there is officially a third pshat, and that's the Zohar HaKadosh, who translates Hashem Echad behemshach to the first few words in the pasuk. There is such a thing as Havai, Shem Havai, which is Chayis and giving life, Koichenu v'Chayisenu, or the Hoya Hoivavi. Then there is Elokeinu, that's Elikim, Midas Hagvura, Midas Hatzimtzum, Midas Hahelem. And the Zohar says the mitzvah of Hashem Echad is to believe that Hashem and Elokim is Echad. It's not two separate koiches or two opposite koiches. The same Avaya has in it Elokim. So the Echad goes on the two koiches, call it Midas Hadin, Midas Harachman, Midas Hachesed. He's Echad in the Indian from Hashem, and Elokim is one. The emes is that in this alone is a moiradika amkes uchsidis. What does it mean Hashem Elokim is Chad? And it goes on and on, deeper and deeper, that being that the Eibishter alone is Elikim, so he cannot be Mailim on himself, so that Tzimtzum is not Kipshutai, and it goes moiradik high. And it's very possible that after you understand what means Hashem Elikim Kol Echad, you could come up to almost the same ideas what the Baal Shem Tov is saying. But officially, the Zohar is saying that the word Echad is going on the Shemis, on the Midas Havaya, Midas Elikim, Kol Echad. This is Bekitza, the three different Mahalchim in Nigle. What does it mean, Hashem Echad? Also, I should have mentioned that it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. It comes from Reb Sadia Gaon, that the word Echad is Ches, is the Zayin Rekiim, and the Oretz, and the Dal is the Dal Druchas Hashemayim, and the Aleph goes on the Alufay Shaloilam, the master of the world, and God is the master over the Shemayim and the Oretz and Dal Rekiim. Of course, this could go deeper and deeper, but officially, so then Echad is that he's the Balabas, Al-Lufesh, also he controls everything. So that's, I don't know if that's called another Mahalach, but that is, it brought down in Shulchan Aruch too, that's what you should be Mechaven. But comes the Baal Shem Tov and makes a revolution in the whole thinking of a Yid. It's there's nothing more revolutionary, and it's a revolution and a revelation. And unbekannt in the ganze Teich Hashem Echad, which makes the whole Yiddishkeit a whole different Yiddishkeit. everything looks different. Everything is different. There's not an aspect in life of a Jew that is not changed by understanding what the Baal Shem Tov taught is a Taich Echad. And Mitzvah Hashem, we're going to soon talk about it, but I just do want to say that it's not, Hasidus has another pshat. There's this pshat, there's that pshat, there's another pshat. So nicht noch a pshat, this is a Ibekernish in the whole Yiddishkeit. It is mind-boggling. And the nafkamine is everything. It's not in one thing. Everything changes if we understand what the Baal Shem Tov said. And I believe, I believe that it's correct, that the whole Hasidus is all based on the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov on Achdus Hashem. Baal Shem Tov said so many Torahs. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Torahs recorded in the Kesser Shem Tov and Savoras HaRivosh and the Toldos and the Degel. There's more ridiculous Torahs of the Baal Shem Tov. But if somebody would want to know, but what's the Nekuda HaTichona of all the Torahs of the Baal Shem Tov? If somebody were to ask the listeners here this afternoon, or by you it's in the evening, whatever, if somebody to say, could you please tell me what is Hasidus? Without this, you could say so many things, and you could talk till doomsday, and you still didn't say nothing. You could ask any other Hasidah, tell me what is Hasidus? I didn't ask you, I'm asking you, tell me in English, what is Hasidus? What's Torah's Baal Shem Tov? The Alter Rebbe, I'm not 100%, but I'm 99.9%. The Alter Rebbe understood that the whole Torah's Baal Shem Tov is Achdus Havai. And every Torah that the Baal Shem Tov said is an aspect, a branch, a toitzah from Achdus Hashem. The Chiddush of Torah's Chassidus is Achdus Hashem. Here comes another radical statement. You'll please forgive me. I don't hear anybody giving me over the head, so I'll use the opportunity and say what's on my mind. Every mimer, from the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, the Alle Rebbeim, every mimer is a beer in Achdus Hashem. Somehow you gotta find in the mimer, and what does this have to do with Achdus Hashem? And if you don't find it in the mimer, you are out to lunch. You never understood the mimer. Every mimer is somehow bringing out another angle in Achdus Hashem. Because that's Chassidus. Chassidus is all about Achdus Hashem. So when you are learning with yourself, or you're learning with your children, or you're learning with Talmidim, you always have to learn the Maimah and find out, and what's it to tell me Achdus Hashem? You're going to learn a Maimah about race, spheres, Atzilis, Eures is Pshutim or not Pshutim. You're like, and what's the Nafkamina B'chlal? L'may Nafkamina. There's a nafkamin in Achdus Hashem. Every mimer brings out Achdus Hashem. I want to tell you something, a story that I heard from Rabbi Jacobson Oliver Shalom. He said this once. I was in Morristown, and he used to be like he used to come and visit like a certain mashpia, and he told us a lot of interesting things. And he said that he once asked the Frierdiker Rebbe, how come there's no Seder in Chassidus? You want to find out about a sugya, you have to look in many different mamarim. There's a maimah scattered here, maimah here. Why isn't there like I want to talk an Indian? A Rebbe should say from the whole beer, but the whole thing. There's no such a thing. You have to go look, find here, find there. It's like a puzzle. So he had this question, and you could chas v'sholom taka have such a question. I don't get the whole picture yet. I still don't get it. What's about this? What's about that? So if the Rebbe Rashab or the whatever Rebbe is trying to explain the thing, he's still not explaining the whole thing because he's not telling you about half of the things he didn't tell you about. So the kasha is a gewaltige kasha. And especially when it comes to the Rebbe Rashab, Shvuis, or many Hemsheichim that you could chas v'sholem think it's about Haskalah. He's talking Haskalah Salakus. Well, if it's Haskalah Salakus, why is he's not telling you the whole story? There's a mime and with this mime and that mime put together, it's going to make sense. So what they're trying to supposedly trying to explain something, and they're not telling you the whole story. That was his shaila, and he got a very powerful answer. Is everybody listening good? So the Rebbe said, the Frierdiker Rebbe said, a maimah is not to tell you haskalah. A maimah is a gilui alakus. A gilui alakus. It's godliness that has to be now taught. We're not here to tell you haskalah. It's melubish in haskalah. But it's not. This is not about haskalah. A Rebbe saying a maimah is gilui alakus. He's trying to be megala lakus. This is very, and what do you think is elikus? Elikus means he's megala achtas havaya. So, bekitzer, we have to understand what is Chasidus. When we talk that Chasidim in the olden days, met gelegen Chasidus. And there Chassid, I want to tell you some acute story. Maybe you heard this before, but it's, I think, a beautiful story. I don't know exactly who it was. I heard about it, but anyway, I don't know who it was. But this is a Chassidim were always thinking Chassidus. No, there was a Chassid. He was busy with Chassidus, and he dropped his pencil or pen, whatever they had in those days, and it so happened that the pen rolled under the bed. The guy bent down or tried to get under the bed. In the meantime, he was busy thinking Chasidus, and it's a machai, it's quiet under the bed. Geblieben dort, and hat weitergetracht. The family didn't know what happened to him. Where is he? Mamish, they went nuts. What happened to him? Anyway, he finally finished thinking, but then he got out. And he couldn't understand. They were looking at him like, where did he fall? And by him, this was just so normal. I was in the middle of an Indian. It's a quiet place. There's so many stories of Hasidim used to travel from one city to another, and they forgot already that they are really on a wagon going somewhere else. When they finished thinking whatever they were thinking, they come to another city and they can't understand, what is this guy doing in my city? Because they really went to the other city, but they forgot in Gansen that they're traveling to another city. So they were asking the people, what do you do? Wie kommst du da? Wie kommst du da? This is not a joke. This is what people are always thinking. Chassidus. What does that mean, the thick Chassidus? Pshat in the to the Kav is given says in the Geya, the whatever Haskalah for Chassidus. No. Chassidus talks as ein oid muvadri. And we happen to feel Moshe Kapoya. Ein oid muvadi. We're busy a whole day, busy with ourselves. And we look at the world's a Metzias. Here we're learning Chassidus. It's not a Metzias. There's only the Eibishter. So how in the world, this is a malocha that a person has to work day and night, that what he sees is sheker. The world looks like it's a Metzias b'fnei atzmai. It has no Metzias b'fnei atzmai. It's only the Eibishter. How in the world does these two things go? It's a moiridik avoida to always remember the two things. So yoda Welt and nicht der Welt. The Welt, das ist der Eibishter. So this was what Hasidim were busy with. They had to always, what they learned, it had to be by them clear. It had to be fresh in your mind that it's nicht wie es guckt aus und it's nicht wie ich feel. But Bashgacha Pratis, I want to share this with you. Today I was learning with some Satmar Chassid on the phone Chasidus. So the guy is a riot and he's a lot of fun to learn with. So he said he wants to learn about davening. I want to share with you this maimah, just a line. So we're learning about tefillah. I got to find a maimah about tefillah. So I find a maimah in Kiseitze, Kisenu, Leish Shtei Noshim, Ha'achatz, Ha'ahuva, Ha'achas Asnua, Amais. Anyways, the maimah starts. I think this is so important to talk about this. I don't know. I don't even know what time it is. What time is it now?
We're a little bit almost at the end. We have like a few minutes left minus.
I have to cut it short, but somebody said I should tell stories, so I'm telling you stories. I got to share this with you here. So the Alter Rebbe starts talking, Shtei Noshim. This is going on the Nefesh Abamis and the Nefesh Elokis. This is Bechlala, a moedik thing the Alter Rebbe brings from the Arizal that we have two neshamis, and the good news is that as a person without Chassidus, Be'emes should have to always go to a doctor. Why? Because he sees that he's a false guy. He's a full of baloney. So who am I? So Bechlal is a shaila. How come Yidden are not constantly going to a psychiatrist or psychologist? Who am I? So the Rebbe said once that Freud, he looked for the schmutz in a person, so he found it. Chassidus talks about the good, but it's much more than that. Chassidus tells you that you have two neshamis. From mitzad your neshama, your tachlis ha'emes. Mitzad your nefesh abamis b'stazah behema, as in the Bronx Zoo, in the shtor azah behema vidu. So what are you wondering? You're wondering, you have all kinds of feelings and thoughts. It's common for your nefesh abamis. But your nefesh elokis is tachlis ha'emes. Okay, that's another side. So look at this maimah. You ready? You're not ready. So the Alter Rebbe says, Nefesh Elokis is always miyuchad with the Eibishter. Even after the Eibishter blew into the neshama, into our body, we're constantly miyuchad. Then the Alter Rebbe says, a disaster. You ready for this? The neshama comes down in this world. Gefährlich in a gashmistige Welt. What's the problem? You got to check this out. Look what Alter Rebbe says. Oh, the problem of this world, you ready for this? The disaster of this world, nearly Adam. The nefesh comes down und zu nearly Adam, shehu yesh v'dava b'fnei atzmai. You hear? Only Hasidus you'll find such a problem. You'll tell anybody in Manchester, tell a Hasidish Yid with the whole uniform, there's a problem. Mir feeling as bezennen a yesh v'dava b'fnei atzmai. He says, wie kauft man das? Wie viel kostet das? You wonder what you're talking about. The Alter Rebbe says that this alone, that you could feel that you are a separate entity besides Hashem, is disaster. You understand where Hasidus is coming from? So is a Pella what Hasidim were always busy thinking Hasidus? What do you think they were thinking about? We're living in two kinds of worlds. Here we learn as Sinishtor Kananda Metzias. But ze guckt doch heiß, als ja Metzias, und ich bin allein die größte Stiere to the Eibishter. I don't know in Manchester if there is such a lingo, head-on collision. Is there such a thing in Manchester? When two cars come together, we and the Eibishter, we don't get along. I don't know if you ever heard this before. We really don't get along because we don't see eye to eye. The Eibishter says, I'm the only existence. And I say, I am the only existence. So we really don't get along. You understand? So we got to do something about it. Before we even begin, we don't get along. So Hasidim were busy getting this, always remembering what's the truth. And we're constantly struggling with that. And if you don't have a struggle, then you really have gehaktzaras. If you don't have nothing bothering you, you think everything is fine, then there's a big rachmanas on you. So, Achtus Havaya is negated. That's what the whole Chassidus is. In B'meile, we have to learn good. The Alter Rebbe, what's Shittas Achsidis in Achtus Havaya, and the Alter Rebbe goes as far as saying that thinking that there's a Metzias besides the Eibishter, it's called Avodah Zarah. You're playing with Avodah Zarah. So it behooves us to continue and to learn more of what's the Taich Hashem Echad. Everyone should be blessed, and we'll continue Mitzvah Hashem next.